always get the audio off. Good morning, everybody. Nikki Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition. This is Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we talk all things health and wellness. Today is going to be super special because it's way outside of my comfort zone. So I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a good show. We're going to have tons of fun. Let me get my music down. So what are we about? Taste Life Nutrition Radio is all about truth and health and wellness. There's a lot of what's called science out there these days, and I've kind of gotten away from the word science because I feel like it's been bastardized a little bit. And so now it's evidence-based. But I think evidence-based is important in everything that we do, and whether it's our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, our relational health, and our financial health. This is the hard one for me. I'm working on this is my year to really take control of my finances, like my business finances. Yeah. I let Lowry take control of the other stuff for the most part because I just don't want it. It's like it's too much for me. I'm like, just put it where you do your thing, right? Because he likes it. Right. For me, though, it's really taking control of my business, financial health, and I've been feeling short, but it doesn't matter. Okay. And then having that control, I think, can create more of what we're looking for. So I'm excited about that. And so I'm excited to have Stephanie Walter on. Stephanie Walter, interestingly, I've known for quite a long time now, quite a few years. Actually, I think when I first started my business, and then randomly she met my husband. And Lowry comes home, he's like, I met this girl, Stephanie Walter. I was like, I know that name. Anyway, really cool situation. It's been a ton of fun. They are, they've become good friends and partners, and it's really been a good thing. But she has a lot of really good, fascinating information that she can give us regarding how we can build wealth and how a lot of what we've learned is not necessarily the way it should be, or maybe it's dated, all of the things. And so, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Nikki, for having me. I love that. I love that evidence-based. I'm going to start using that too. I like that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. It's good. Yeah, I kept saying it. It's all about the science, and I'm a science nerd. I love the science, and I love the data. And just over the last couple of years, it's just been, they keep talking about the science. I'm like, is that science?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to get away from science. We're going to talk about evidence-based. So,
I like that.
First, though, we start the show with gratitude. Why? Because gratitude can change the world. Gratitude it's internal, external, it's energetic. If we start our day with gratitude, then the day will be filled with more happiness, even if we have junk, right? We all have junk. We're all dealing with stuff. And but just knowing that, just being aware of those things that are in your life that build you up and that make you happy, those things can help push you forward, and focus on those things and try to not focus on the other. And it radiates. It literally radiates, and it creates gratitude throughout those who are around you. It makes a huge difference, and I truly believe it can change the world. If each of us has a little bit of gratitude morning and evening, I think it can change the world. That's my thought. So
that's a great thought. I believe it 100%. So
what are you grateful for?
Usually it's my family, but I think this at the beginning of this year is my health. Just had a lot of things going on last month, and had a few surgeries, and everything went well, and we're just, I'm just grateful because I was in the hospital for a little bit and noticed, I was in ICU actually for a little bit, and saw all these people that were devastatingly unhealthy, and it just made me like be revisit my health and be super grateful that, you know, I am where I am and I'm healthy, and I want to maintain that for my son and myself for sure.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Good.
Cool. Good. So this morning this was my gratitude. It's kind of an interesting one, a little bit different than usual, I think, but I was getting dressed, and I realized as I was getting dressed that almost everything that I put on today has a story. I love stories because stories are little memories. We have a little bit of a sidebar. We have a tradition in our home, it's just Lowry and me, my husband, and every year we have an ornament or two or three, whatever, for whatever big happened that year. So it represents whatever happened that year. So our whole Christmas tree every year, I can't not put one up because it's everything that I put on the tree is a memory from the 20 years before, right?
Wow.
So it's just really special. And so that's kind of how I felt this morning, where I'm putting on, I haven't worn this jacket in a long time. I love this jacket. This is a gift from my mother-in-law who passed a couple of years ago. Just before COVID, January, just before COVID. So we're kind of grateful for that because that would have been tough. But she gave me this. This was her piece of, she had a lot of turquoise. I have a lot of her turquoise. Isn't that pretty?
Yes.
So this, and then these earrings were just this Christmas from Lowry.
Oh.
They were on the street in Albuquerque, you know, where they have the little downtown area where you can go and buy the jewelry from the vendors, and so really cool. We got a couple of pieces there. We have a few pieces from there, from Santa Fe and Taos, and it's just so fun. I love the turquoise and all of that look. But then, so I have this piece. I'm going to show whoever wants to see it. Anyway, so it's a belt buckle. I hardly ever wear belt buckles, but this also is from my mother-in-law. I don't know if it was. I don't know how old it is. I mean, to me, it looks old.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the turquoise.
Yeah. And so the reason I finally get to wear this is because I finally got a belt for it. And so I feel like it's really old. But so this belt came from, I went to Etsy. Who doesn't go to Etsy? I went to Etsy and I was looking around, but I needed a belt that didn't have already a buckle on it. And so I found this, I think it was Reagan Flagan, which I really wanted to mention because they sent me two belts. One's this one. So it's this cool, if y'all can see it, it's this inlaid, sort of cool old Western look, right? And then a turquoise, distressed turquoise belt. They're gorgeous and they're fun and they're easy and they fit well. And so I just wanted to mention that because having the ease and it not being crazy expensive like at the stores, I think is huge. I bought earrings, I bought the belts. Anyway, now I can wear my cool little belt buckle because I have a cool belt.
It is.
So
cool.
yeah, so it's all of these just fun stories that I'm really grateful for, that just take me back and make me happy and make me grateful for this life. You know, there's so much to do and so much to give and so much goodness in this life, even in a time where there's a little bit of chaos. You know, just sort of try to strip that away a little bit and take it back to all of the goodness that we have, and it's a really beautiful place to be, this life.
It is.
Yeah.
I love that you got that from your mother-in-law who's passed. So that's just like something, a little legacy from her.
Yeah.
For you to remember her.
Yeah. She's a really neat lady. So let's jump into money. Oh, money. I love you and I hate you. So let's start with, I feel like I need Kleenex, sorry. Yep. All right, so let's start with who you are. Who you are, why you are, what motivates you, what got you here, all of the fun things that have brought you to this place where you are now retired as a 50-ish, 48-ish, I don't remember.
50.
Yeah, okay, so I thought we were about the same age. And you're retired and now you're helping others do what you do and did. Yeah. So let's talk about how that happened.
Yeah. Well, I started out just pretty much like everybody else. Had a regular W-2 job, and I, was working really hard. And I sat down and spoke to my manager at the time, and they gave me a 2% raise, and I remember just being so disappointed with that and taking it home to my dad, who was alive at the time, and just was like, Dad, this is what they're telling me I'm worth. And my dad was like, well, you can continue doing that, and that you know what you're going to get, or you can work for yourself or start something on your own, and then really it's up to you what you accomplish. And so about 2 weeks later, after that conversation, I put in my 2 weeks notice.
Good for you.
And started learning to be an insurance agent, which was what my dad was, and then did that for about 6 months, and my dad actually unexpectedly passed away. So, but they were the company he had gave us the opportunity of buying his business. They gave us about 7 days to make that decision. So
7 days,
yeah,
7 whole days.
Yes. So it was quite stressful, but I made the decision to buy the business and just immerse myself into it. Literally, we had an office that had a living space above it. I lived and worked in the same office, just because there was so much to get this business up and running, because my dad hadn't really been in it for a while, doing other things. He's an entrepreneur. So did that and loved it, loved my clients. I started purchasing not multifamily, but just single family real estate, a couple, properties a year. I didn't know what I was doing, literally. I would cash flow maybe $100 a month, or if I was lucky. And I continued on that path for about 16 years, and I got invited to like a boot camp where they were talking to you about investing in multifamily real estate, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So then I went and sat in it, and that's when I first heard the notion of a syndication, which is basically a group of people buying a piece of real estate together that no one could do on their own. Right. And I loved that idea. I loved it. I was sold, and from that moment on, I signed into this company, which was called RE Mentor. I ended up, you just had to immerse yourself for about 3 years to really get your master's. Wow. Yeah, like a master's really in commercial real estate, which is what I feel like I came out with. And then I did my first deal when I was in 2018, at the end of 2018 by myself, and realized I never, ever, ever wanted to do a real estate deal by myself again. And partnered up with my partner, and we've since done about 12 deals together. Nice. And I raise money. That's really my thing. That's what I like to do. But anyways, I ended up selling a lot of my rental properties. I invest in every property that we do together. And as such, I was able to replace my business income pretty shortly. And so I retired from the insurance business in 2001. And so cool. Yeah.
I think about it. In 2001, you retired.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, so you were 40.
Yeah. In my 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
or 2021. Sorry.
21.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was a long time ago.
Oh my gosh. No, 2021 was when I retired. So yeah.
Cool.
I forget about those 20 years.
Yeah, and I was off by 10. So how is it, so you now are able to just bring in money just based on the money that you've put in, essentially. So each deal you've done is what's bringing in cash flow for you. Yeah. Yep.
And I did change my mental attitude, my mindset, which I talk about in this book I've written. It's not out yet. But mindset is huge. I noticed a lot of wealthy investors that were my investors were very interesting people, and quite giving. But what I found most interesting about them is that they focused on cash flow. I was always very focused on my net worth. You know, I do a little sheet every year and be like, ooh, look at how rich I am. But I had no cash flow coming in, but the thing is that they focus on cash flow, and once I shifted my focus that direction, that's why I was able to retire, because I was focused on cash flow coming in.
Interesting. So there's you. I'm going to be super upfront about this. This is way outside of my comfort zone, and so knowing how to ask questions about this stuff is really hard for me, because I'm a science nerd and not a money nerd. Yeah. Although I should be a money nerd, that would be helpful. Mindset of money.
Yes, absolutely.
So, explain to me how it is that. How is it when you focus on cash flow instead of on what you said?
Net worth.
How does that change? How does that bring in more cash flow?
Well, for me, I was looking at my different properties that I owned and how much they were actually cash flowing at the end of the day. I had a lot of equity in them because we live in Colorado, so I invested, during the last recession. So you'd kind of have to be an idiot or do something really wrong to not have done well during this time. So I had a lot of equity. So I was like, well, I'm going to put this equity into this property we're buying, where we're getting like 20% returns a year. And then a cash flow that comes in every month, and it didn't take long to shift that money into cash flowing assets. So I just kind of sold my properties. Some people would feel more comfortable maybe taking an equity line out, but I felt I was tired of being a landlord. I didn't want any more part of it. I was tired of it, so I just took my money and put it into these deals, which I figured was the best thing, because what could be more safe and secure than my own deals?
Well, yeah. That's amazing. And so one of the things, if I take all of this and relate it back to, what I talk and preach and teach is about less stress. So it sounds a little bit like you took a lot of the stress off, as well as increasing cash flow. Because when we have any kind of stress, it's going to create physical, mental, emotional dysfunction.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you experience any of that?
Yes. I mean, it was a big sigh of relief, because almost like every snowstorm in Colorado, you'd be like, oh crap, who's gonna? I had one time when I was up. We have a condo. And my tenant called me at, I think, 2 a.m, and she came home to a broken pipe that had flooded the whole house. And, it's just things like that. You don't want to be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning on your vacation to talk about a broken pipe So, that was a huge stress that was lifted off of me by doing this.
Yeah. So, again, another reason why we want to talk about this is, going back to what I was just saying is, I have people who come to me on a regular basis, and they're dealing with all of these symptoms. One of the jobs that I have is to dig into the why behind the symptoms. Where are the stressors? What's going on? Yes, there can be infection, and there can be, traumatic brain injury, all of these different things that can be going on that are creating these symptoms. But is there an underlier? Is there an underlying cause, sort of like even way back that is creating this problem? It can be trauma, but it can certainly be, if you're dealing with financial issues. I'm working right now I'm about to launch a program called Soulful Conception, and a big part of this program is, it's preconception care and planning. But a big part of the program is making sure that anybody who's coming through this program is aware of their mental and emotional health, of their financial health, their spiritual health, and allowing them to work through those things to release blocks. And not all of this is stuff that I do. I have, people who are my guest experts, who are going to come in and talk about, really broad range of things to help women and their spouse to sort of move through the process. And as my friend, I don't remember who it was now. Jennifer Bloom had her on last week. She said, pregnancy is not about doing, it's about receiving. Mm-hmm. And so isn't that pretty? Mm-hmm. And that's what I keep that at the top of my mind. And everything is, it's such a holistic view of health and of allowing for pregnancy to come in, and all of these different things, whatever goals we have in our life, the stressors that we have can really be, can inhibit what we're wanting, where we're wanting to go. So anyway, just a little bit of a side note, but I think that it's interesting to watch just a little bit of a change of mindset. One small thing that a person can say switches where you are in life, essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Mindset is a huge thing. I have a chapter that's dedicated to it in my book. It's essential that people change their mindset when it comes to money.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about so one of the things that we have just sort of in the promo is that you are sort of dispelling the myths. The things that we've been taught growing up are the things that are going to build wealth. What are some of those things that we should know that are the myth, and what's real, and what works? And I'm sure a lot of it's some individualized as well, but
the big myth I think that I hear from a lot of people is when they invest, they have to take high risks. Like, people are like to me, oh, you work with a lot of wealthy people. Well, I'm sure they are getting into high risk things to get these high returns. There's nothing further from the truth from what I've seen from my wealthy investors. They invest very much in things they know and in things that they understand, mm-hmm. which I would draw the opposition to that is the average person in a 401k puts their money into it every month, and they have no idea what it's invested in. If you ask them, and actually I think I read this, it might be something I referenced in my book. I think if you ask someone, 90% of people in 401ks do not believe they're being charged fees. And fees are really the silent killer in these plans. So
is that why you don't like 401ks?
I don't, I mean, if you're going to be in a 401k, I recommend just getting into an index fund, which, most of these 401ks are, they come up with this plan and it's completely outside of your control. But people do have control in that you could go in and say, I'd like my money taken out of all these mutual funds you have me invested in and put me into an index fund. Because actually, there was a study that was out not too long ago that said 96% of the time the index beats these mutual funds. So there's no reason to stay in the mutual funds because their fees are very high. Mm-hmm. They average about 3.17, I think, percent a year, whereas an index fund, the fees can be less than 1%.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's a huge difference.
It is a huge difference. Mm-hmm. So just by doing that one thing in your 401k, that could lead you to having a better income when you go to retire. I just think that it's a good idea, for people to diversify, truly diversify, which mm-hmm. is have some market-related funds, have things outside of the market as well, is what I've seen. But most of the wealthy people I know don't have the 401ks because of that lack of control, mm-hmm. which they need. Mm-hmm. And they crave to understand what they're investing in. And I would ask, how can any person that's investing in a mutual fund, which is hundreds of different companies, know who's running the company, each of the companies, what is their goal, what are their goals, what is the experience level of the management team? All of those things are hugely important to wealthy people.
I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and just come this way just a little bit because we got...
Oh, sorry.
Could you?
Yeah.
So what would you do, so do you recommend or do you prefer something over 401k instead of?
For me, I've always understood real estate, so
Okay.
the syndication.
I mean, it seems to be kind of the thing. Like, you know, no matter what, it's gonna, even if it drops a little bit, it's always gonna go up, right?
I love things, and again, through my connections with wealthy people, that was definitely, I understood that that's something that they do as well. And so they invest in tangible things, whether that be a business, or real estate. Real estate syndications are quite easy to get involved with, but a lot of people don't understand them, or yet have never heard of them.
Yeah.
And they've been around forever, and the banks, big banks, institutional money, and the wealthy have been doing this type of investing for years. I'd say hundreds of years, actually, syndications have been around.
Interesting.
And so now it's just, in 2012, Obama came out with the Jobs Act, and there was a little thing in the Jobs Act which made it much easier for us as syndicators to talk to investors.
Okay.
So it made it so that prior to this law, we'd have to be at the country club, and I'd have to be like, yeah, I've got this deal, but I can't talk to someone I've never known or don't have a previous relationship with. So that kind of keeps it really tied into these wealthy circles of investors. But when that changed, it allowed us to market outside. It allows me to go on your show and talk about the investing in this way.
Okay.
And so it opened up the volume of people that know about it.
Okay. Yeah, I had never heard of it until Lowry came home and started talking about it. I was like, okay. Because it doesn't, syndication, it doesn't really make sense to me, just the word.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of people think that too. Yeah, they're like, what is that? But essentially it's very simple to say that it's a professional group of people. So me and my partners go out, we find a commercial piece of property, multifamily, or, really it could be any commercial property that we have experience in, and we know it's a good deal, okay? And then we present it. We do all the due diligence. We get the loan. We do all of the things that most people don't like to do. And then we bring in our investors that are passive investors. They don't do anything. All they do is put their money in. And then we close on the deal, and we start managing the property. And then the passive investors are given their investment, their cash flow every month, which is very appealing to most people. And then they get reports, which I love, actually, the reports, because I don't do any of the managing either. But you'll get a report every month that's just like, this is how many units are vacant, this is how many problems came up, like broken pipe, different, whatever things that have occurred in that I didn't have to get calls for in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we show our bank statements, money going in, money going out. We're very transparent about that. And then, and then at the end of the month, I get that report, which is the accountability, and then the cash flow, which is really passive and nice.
I mean, that's what we all want, right?
Yeah,
is good passive income. That's amazing. So one of the things that you had said, you were talking about the big banks, the big institutions, and there's a potential there of those being problematic. So how is that?
Well, I mean, I'm going back to the idea that we were sold this 401k, which is relatively new for us. But what I don't like about it is the lack of liquidity. Once you put your money in, it's in until you're ready to retire. Then you can take it out, but we don't even know what the tax rates are going to be. Surprisingly, our tax rates are the lowest they've been in 80 years, I think, right now.
Wow.
I wrote that down because I can't remember. Yeah, they're 39.6 is the marginal income tax rate, and that's the lowest it's been in 80 years.
Wow.
So we know from all the spending that's going on that those tax rates are going to go up. So my problem, and I think most wealthy people's problems with the 401k, is you never really know how much money you have, because say you have $500,000 in your account, well, what does that mean in 20 years when you retire?
Mm-hmm.
Like, will it be 50%, 60%? You know, it's that unknown variable is not acceptable.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't blame the big banks, and you know, this is all just, this 401k has just been a huge moneymaker for them, because really what banks want is for you to put money into their bank. They want you to do it systematically, which is done when you have a 401k. They want to give it back to you as slow as possible. And all these things, hold it for as long as possible, give it back as slow as possible. These are all encompassed in what a 401k is.
Okay.
And so it's really important that you understand like what kind of fees you're paying and really get on top of that and make decisions if, you know, you have some money to put into something else outside of the 401k is sort of my recommendation.
Okay, cool, yeah. So what are there other myths that you want to tell us about?
I like, well, this one is more like mindset, which I like a lot, is, okay, the mindset of what most people think wealthy people have is an accumulation mindset, which means I'm just going to take this money and put it somewhere and just let it sit. You know, I kind of sometimes use the example of the grandma with her, you know, her nest egg under her blanket or mattress or whatever. But there's, so anyways, yeah, that's, what was I? Mindset, yes. Okay, but the actual wealthy person thinks of utilization, which is using their money at all times, knowing what it's doing for them at all times.
That's Lowry.
Yeah. I was
He's always talking about that. I'm like,
yeah.
I thought I was using it. Anyway.
And look at it, and really it is a mindset shift, because it's like, okay, this money should be doing something for me. And when you switch that, that's when, you know, you're more concerned with your cash flow coming in and not just sitting. So yeah, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah, I think mindset's important for just about anything. You know, it's important to learn and to grow. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like right now, because again, this is so far outside of my world. I really literally let Lowry take care of most all of that stuff, because I'm just like, just give me just give me the sciencey stuff, you know, the evidence-based stuff. But learning, having the mindset of growth, having the mindset of education, and being okay to be guided when it's uncomfortable, because that's how I feel about money. Is you know. I mean, I love it. It's not that I don't want it. It's just, you know, how do you know it's working for you? Anyway, all of those things that is, you know, that's, I'm 50 years old. It's time to know. And to have the mindset to be open to that and want to learn and grow. So here we are, learning and growing every day. So I think this is probably a good question, you know, when it comes to the syndications, kind of getting back to that, and you might have said this already, but is this something that anybody can participate in? I assume you have to have a little bit of money to be able to give. Yep, and that is the thing with these deals. You have to be an accredited investor, which means that you have to make you know, $200,000 a year, or have a net worth, or have a net worth of $1 million. Okay. But what I tell people, that because I work with a lot of people that are, you know, just trying to get into something like this, is that it's very possible to create like an LLC, and this is completely legal, to create an LLC, and just one of the people has a net worth of $1 million. So say like 4 people want to invest each $25,000, and they're able to get into a deal like this, and it's not very long before they're an accredited investor. Interesting.
Yeah, and all of this stuff is regulated. I'm big on this. I'm kind of fascinated. I've been fascinated with watching these people that raise money, like Elizabeth Holmes and Bernie Madoff. And Bernie Madoff, they just had this big thing on Netflix about him, and I was stunned at how what he was doing with his money, with the Ponzi scheme that he had going on, and just it was really nuts. But I always talk to people, each of our deals, or any deal that I'm involved in, is going to be registered with the SEC. We do all of our documents, and we report to the SEC what we're promising our investors, so that if something would go wrong, that they would have that, avenue to do that. But yeah, I think it's really important to know this is a highly regulated industry. And what's nice when it's outside of the market is that there's always the tangible value. So I think a lot of people maybe think, well, what if something happens like in 2008 where my house next door was worth like way less and it made my house worth way less. Well, the way that commercial properties are valued is they're valued by the income that they produce. And so there are not those fluctuations. So really in the last recession that happened, multifamily properties like apartment buildings actually did very well because a lot of people were moving out of their houses and they're moving into apartments. And so it's a very tangible, safe place to have your money. So yeah.
So somebody invests. So this is going off just the little bit that I know about syndication. But you find your property, and then you start to look for investors. Is that correct?
Yep, kind of. We find the property, we do the due diligence, which that takes a lot of time, and then we get the loan. Then we determine, we are a go on this, because many of these, once we start digging in deeper, are not ones that we're interested in. And so then we have all the syndication paperwork drawn up by the syndication attorney, and then we're good to go to start raising the money.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you have your group of people who invest. So I think I'm thinking, what's the timeline, and then how quick will somebody start to see a return?
Yeah, so usually I want to say it can be 90 days before closing. So we'll probably have a solid 90-day period to raise money. And then once we've raised the money, we close on the property, we kind of stabilize it, be sure that, we've got our arms around all the problems that are going on, and usually pay the distribution, the cash flow is called distribution, within the first 3 to 6 months.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, it is.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
Yeah, it is it's very nice. And then you get some nice tax, because you own part of this building. So some people ask me, well, what's the difference between this and a REIT? Well, a REIT is actually a stock that you buy.
Okay.
That is based on real estate, but it is a stock. So you don't actually own the real estate, so you don't get all the benefits of owning real estate. Whereas this is, you actually own the real estate, and so you get the tax benefits like any other owner would get.
So it's almost like you're all in business together.
Yes.
And that works well?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the passive investors are very passive.
Okay.
And so they kind of, that is something that if someone is like, I want control of everything, this probably isn't going to be up your alley, because you're going to give control to the managing members, the general partners, who are going to run the deal.
Gotcha.
And then the passive people really don't have much to say, unless something's going wrong with the property, or the people are not doing what they said they're going to be doing. And, that happens. That's why it's really, really important to, look over someone's experience and their track record in this. But usually I find like people, they, find us or, someone else, and they really only invest maybe with 1 or 2 different syndicators, because once they go through and do all their due diligence on our track record and what we stand for, they don't really want to look around a lot, and we have a good track record. We perform well. They just invest again and again.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You know, once you find somebody you trust, that's what, you know, I talk about this a lot just in practice, is building your team and finding the people who you know you can go to and who you trust and who are, you know, whether they're your mentors or your guides or just people who you know that they have your best interest at heart. You know, because if you don't, then, you know, nobody's going to be successful, right? And at some point, so.
And that's a huge thing with wealthy people. They believe in ideas. They want to learn about your ideas, say, for turning this commercial property around. But then they do a lot of research on you and the team. So they invest in teams, ideas, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So much fun. Let's see. What other super interesting questions can I ask you? So let's get in a little bit to stuff that I know really a lot about, tax diversification. This is all so important and so intriguing and interesting, and I'm like, all right, what does that mean?
Well, it is. Actually, it's a great term that I've just heard recently, and I love it. It's tax treatment diversification. So everybody thinks of, are you diversified? Are you diversified in your portfolio? But no one ever says, are you diversified with your tax treatment of your income? Now, what are the different tax treatments? It's fully taxable. It can be somewhat tax advantage, like investing in real estate. It can be tax deferred, which is most of America waiting for their 401k, or it can be tax free. And that's the bucket that most people don't think about, but there are definitely strategies of getting tax free income.
Well, that would certainly be nice.
Yeah.
So are these strategies that we should talk about?
Yeah, these are, this is kind of changing the conversation just a little bit, because these are products that act very much like real estate. They're assets, they have tangible value, they go up all the time, they're not linked to the market and things like that. And the way that we put these together are they're leveraged very much like a real estate product, and they provide tax-free income. This is something that, again, wealthy people have been doing for a long time. It's been a kind of a secret, I think. There's no other way to say it, because I talk to people every day. No one has ever heard of this strategy, even insurance agents, because this is actually an insurance product. It's a life insurance product. So people go, oh, life insurance, but these are products that are designed for wealthy people, or anyone really now, to put their money in, and once your money is in here, you have no more tax. It grows tax free, and you're given the income tax free. And so these are things that I say the wealthy have engineered for years to work for them.
Sure.
And so now, as this is getting out to more and more people, if you deal with like someone that knows what they're doing, like a wealth strategist, like what I am, who work specifically with these products, it should be part of everybody's portfolio. I mean, it's an amazing strategy. I look at these and I'm always like, why didn't I know about this like 20 years ago when I was younger?
Well, yeah.
But it's just, you know, it's just these with the internet, I really think there's just so much more exchange of information than there's ever been before. So these are why some of these things come to light that we have never heard of before.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. There's very much, I have personally a very love-hate relationship with the internet.
Yeah, yes, that's
you
true.
know, it gives us this ability to learn and to research and to communicate, but it also, how do we know what's right? How do we know what's wrong? How do we know what's a scam? How do we know, it's just like with nutrition, people are, they dig and they're looking at, Dr. Google and, then they get freaked out. I talked to talked to a client the other day, and she's a brand new client, and I was asking her, I was like, have you researched this? Have you looked into this? She's like, yeah, but I stopped 6 months ago because it's just too much, and I don't know what's real and what's not real, and I can't take it because she's in a scary position, right? And when you don't know it just makes you more scared.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you don't want that at all. But it's just like anything. How do you find your team, find your people who know how to tell you what's real and what's not real?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
They need to find, someone like you or someone like me that knows what they're doing. But the ideas are out there on the internet, and then some can be, obviously they can be changed and mutated, and yeah, especially with nutrition, because I'm telling you, every time you go on, it's something else.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, that's what brought me here. Was I was so confused, and I love it. Right? I just started researching. I was like, okay, it's kind of like you. You start to dig in. You're like, I need more. I don't have a choice. This is now the way God made me.
Yeah.
I need more.
Yeah. And I remember it was for me. It was to take charge of my finances was a little motivated by seeing people in my agency when I was an agent that would be getting to be 80, 75, 80, and they had nothing. They had just done what they were told to do to get their Social Security, and they were struggling. I mean, I still think of these people even today. So that was a huge motivator for me to figure out what's going on with my finances, because I didn't want to be a person like that.
Yeah. So what is the year? I just heard this yesterday, and I can't remember what it was, but the year that we're thinking that Social Security is going to actually just be gone or run out.
They keep saying it. I think it's like it's very close. I think it's like 20. It could be in the 2030s or the 2040s. That's what I was thinking,
like 2030, 2035, something like that. Which is, you're like, oh, I'll still be alive. Yeah. I mean, and so Laura and I, we don't expect to have it anyway. No. I mean, it's like, you don't count on it. Right. But a lot of people do, and so preparing for that. I mean, it's just madness. Madness of it all. I mean, it's crazy. I want to make sure that we talk about your book.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you said it's not out yet.
It's not out yet. It's, I think, by the end of the month. Soon. Yeah. So it's called Shattering Money Myths, and I'm going to have it available on my website. And so, I worked on it all through the summer. It came to be because I just went on a lot of podcasting, and people sort of asking me the same questions over and over again. You've asked me a lot of different questions, but that's great. But
because I don't know really what to ask.
But asking a lot of the same questions, which meant that some people had a real interest in these different things. And so then I was like, gosh, there are so many things. And then also me working with my wealthy investors and just understanding how they looked at money. And then also my my evolution of, okay, I thought I was doing everything right, and then just switching mentalities to investing in cash flowing things just kind of changed everything for me. So then that just kind of made me want to ride it, and also introducing some products, like I said, the syndication. There's a chapter on the syndication in the book. There's a chapter on these premium financed insurance policies that provide these amazing streams of income when you get older. There's even a chapter on annuities, and then just the myths that of the fees. That's really the killer for most people, is learning about the fees, because that's actually something they can do. They can make a change in their 401k, their investments, to move their money to an indexed place, and then they've reduced their fees. Okay. But,
so what are some questions that others are asking you that I didn't ask you that maybe we should talk about or know about?
Let's see. I mean, I think basically the questions of how the wealthy think about their money, that's different than everybody else. What are they doing with their money? That's different. That's a big one. I have to think about it for the other ones.
So would syndication be one of those things that the wealthy do?
Yes.
That okay, I think you said that, but I just wanted to be clear about that, because I think that's such an interesting, cool concept that just almost anybody can get into.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell, like, because I have a lot of clients that maybe quite aren't at the 1 million net worth, and I still don't think that should, keep them from investing, which is why I say, well, if you want to partner with a group, you can get involved in something like this just to see how it works, or even if they're uncomfortable with coming up with a minimum amount. That usually our minimums are around $100,000 to invest. So maybe they're like, oh, that seems like a lot. Maybe I'll invest $25,000 with a couple people. Then they can see, oh, it works.
Kind of doable.
It's not a scam, and let's do it again. Because our goal really is through our through our group is we want to double our clients' money within the time we hold it. So there is an end period. You don't give us your money forever. We usually hold the money for 3 to 5 years to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And then you get your money back. But our goal is to double our investors' money in 3 to 5 years, which is really good.
So then explain to me, so what is the goal that you're wanting to accomplish? I guess I just assume you purchase a commercial property and you just keep the property.
Yeah. Well, this is the beauty of, people are like, well, I could just do this myself, but you really don't understand, like, all the stuff that goes into it. Like, we understand, we're very conscious of markets, like, especially through COVID, because I did most of my investing through COVID. We had most of our properties in Florida, which was a huge, great thing. But, and multifamily. So, yeah, I think that's, hugely important. To look at the markets. Then you've got someone that's really understanding the asset. We're trying to buy something that's undervalued in some way. So we're looking for a property, to use multifamily, that's an easy example. Like the vacancy is really low, or they're not charging market rents. You come across this a lot when you find a property that maybe a family has owned for a few years, and it was like how I was when I was a landlord. I'm like, I'm just happy someone's in. I'm not going to raise the rent. And so, you find a lot of people like that are either not keeping their rents at market rent, and or their expenses are out of control. All of these things add value to the property itself. So we come up with our business plan and say, okay, we can raise the rents, over this amount of time. Well, it looks like this market we're in is growing. Like our last property we bought was in Orlando, and Orlando is insane. Every place in Florida is insane, but anyways, Orlando is growing. 1,500 people a week are moving there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's nuts. So, and then they have not enough housing there. So, you do the supply and demand in your head. So, those are the markets we look for. And then we look for, someone who wasn't running their property right. They need to increase the value some way. So, there's a plan, and there's a different plan for each property because each one's different. And then we determine, okay, we're going to be able to add, so much money to the value of this property when we go to sell it in 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And then
so there's always a point down the road, fairly close, 3 to 5 years, that you're going to sell. That's always the intent.
Yep.
To sell.
Well, and it could be also that we refinance it, and if we want to get the investors out of the property, and they say they want to invest in something else, or we can refinance it and keep it. But it's flexible because our properties have small amounts of investors in it. We usually have maybe 50 investors in any one deal. So we all know each other, we all communicate with each other. We're going to do what makes everybody happy at the end of the day and what suits everyone the best.
And that's easy to do, huh?
Yeah.
I still go back to, that's a lot of people, a lot of opinions, but I get that they don't have a lot of opinions, they just want their money.
Right, exactly.
Which
the best
is good.
return on their money.
Yeah. Well, so is there anything else? We've got just a few minutes left. I want to make sure people know how to reach out to you, but is there anything else that you want to share that we maybe have not talked about?
I mean, I know that finances can be super confusing, just like, you know, what you were saying. They listen to Dave Ramsey, they listen to Susie Orman, but I heard this quote that was by Robert Kiyosaki, who is a really cool guy.
Yeah.
And he says the wealth that you attain depends on the advice that who you're seeking your advice from. And so I say, you know, yes, some of these things might sound like different and scary and not what your financial planner is telling you to do, but know that your financial planner is being motivated by keeping your money in the system where it is. So to start looking into these things, and actually I think the saddest thing about the 401k is that it's really let people give up responsibility for their money. They just put it into this spot and they're like, okay, I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But truly, just take responsibility for your money and, you know, the goals that you want through your retirement. Seek advice from people who are working with wealthy people or have experience in this industry, because there are so many different things that you can be doing and should be doing with your money.
I did a 3-day seminar, sort of a financial health, financial prosperity 101, sort of seminar. It's 3 days of this stuff. And I was like, okay, I can do this, you know. But one of the things that she said, which makes sense because we say this, I mean, especially in health and wellness, is what you focus on will grow.
Yes.
And, you know, you go, when what you focus on, you know, so you think about if you're focusing on your weight, well, you keep focusing on it, you might grow.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
It's more about, you know, focusing on what you want out of it, you know, where you want to be, you know. And then the same, I think, kind of with money is, I you know, going back to just being totally transparent about all of this is I have a bookkeeper and I meet with her every month, and that's about as far as it goes. And I took that class, and then, you know, was talking with Lowry and just going, I need to focus on this, and I need to be in control of it, because then it'll grow. Because I know what's going on. I need to know better what's going on, and I want to be able to utilize what I have, you know. And of course it's, you know, we share our income, but I don't know, it's like, you know, sometimes you just get that switch that flips and you're like, okay, just stop being stupid and do what you gotta do. Be an adult. You gotta be an adult at some point. So, anyway. Can your book be found on Amazon or just your website?
I'm just going to put it on my website
Okay.
Initially, because I like to, you know, I would like people to, you know, participate in getting our newsletters once a month.
Sure.
And learn a little bit more about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. You have really great stuff to share.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so much of it is about thinking outside the box, you know, and going outside of what we have been taught for so long in a lot of things. But, you know, things become antiquated and dated and less useful, and as we find people like you who think outside the box can help us all to grow. And, you know, the more wealth we have, the more wealth we can give.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
And that's sort of the mindset that I'm in, because, you know, I can always find wealthy people that are interested in investing in our deals. But I really try to reach out to people that are not quite there yet, you know, or don't really know about this stuff. And I get a lot of joy from working with someone who, like, oh yeah, we just sold one of our rental properties because I'm done and I want to do this. I want to try this, and we'll see how it goes. And then they do it and they're like, oh, okay, I'm selling all the rest of my rental properties. So that gives me a lot of joy when people, you know, come into this without a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are building wealth for themselves,
Mhm.
so I love it.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you.
Thanks
This
for
was
having
good.
me.
It always goes by so quickly. So you didn't say your website. Did you say your website?
Oh no, my website is www.erbewealth.com. It's Erbe. It's a German word for legacy. It's a nod to my dad, who is in my mentor, best mentor I've ever had, who passed away. He was a second generation. His father came over straight from Germany, a German immigrant, and so I was like, I'll just do the name of my business to honor him, a legacy of wealth. Yeah,
I love that. Very cool. Well, thank you, and thanks everybody for joining us. Of course, you can find me at tastelifenutrition.com. We're streaming live here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, on KUHSdenver.com, the best station ever. Thanks to Henry. Thanks, Henry. So you can go to my website, tastelifenutrition.com. You can fill out an assessment on help you out a little bit. All the social media is Taste Life Nutrition. And of course, it's coming. It's coming really, really soon. We'll announce a date here shortly. But soulful conception, soulful. The words are hard. But this is a preconception care and planning course that I'm super excited about. This is a course that is it's becoming bigger and bigger, and what I mean by that is it is supportive of the clients, it's supportive of practitioners. It really is, it's kind of a little bit like this show where there are amazing people who have a lot to give, who people need and don't know that they're there. Do you know what I mean? And so what I want is to close that gap. I want couples who are looking to grow and expand their families, to have the ability to reach out to the people who can best help them in the shortest period of time. Obviously we're going to talk food and supplementation and detoxification and toxicants and mindset, but there's so much. We want to get rid of blockages. We want to look at the epigenetics from the past to the future. There's so much that we are going to put into this program, and I think it can do nothing but really create a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby, a healthy adult, and a healthy future for generations to come. And I'm super excited about it. So if you have questions about it, please feel free to reach out. More to come, but it's starting to grow on social media. We're getting it out there, and I'm super excited about it. So anyway, we'll see you here next week, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend. See you later. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Oh, gosh.
All right. Come on. So